Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Her Faith Inspires podcast, where we take cultural issues and align them to biblical truth. And we are taking a major cultural issue today, and we're talking about it. I have a bonus episode with my friend, Dawn Jackson. Dawn is a personal friend of mine. We both met at the Cross-Examine Instructors Academy last summer and have talked and taken a couple of online classes together, through online Christian courses. But just to let you know a little bit about her before we get into our topic today, she lives in Santa Cruz, California. Like I said, it's my home state, and she serves on staff as lead director of staff operations and family ministries at Vintage Faith Church. With a teaching background and passion for apologetics, she is deeply passionate about engaging people in current cultural topics through the truth of Scripture. She and her husband, Brian, have been an active part of their church and greater Santa Cruz community with leading church-wide youth events and gatherings. They have two children, Ella and Brian, who are in their early teens, and in her free time, doesn't sound like you have much of that, Dawn, she enjoys spending time with her family and competitive game nights, running, and enjoying the outdoor beauty of Santa Cruz. You know what I miss about Santa Cruz? I miss the eucalyptus smell.
Oh,
the eucalyptus trees. Yeah.
That
They're
is
all
Santa
over
Cruz.
Santa Cruz. Yes, we've had one and many youth groups or youth camps in Santa Cruz at the beaches over there. So I do miss those smells. But thanks for being on. I mean, we planned this, didn't I ask you last Friday or something?
Oh, yeah. We were like a spur of the moment, but so honored to be here, Shanda. Love what you do.
Yes.
You're a dear friend.
Oh, thank you. You know what, Dawn, you are too. And here's why I say that. You are on the front lines. I titled this podcast episode, Life Hangs in the Balance, because it truly does. And yes, I know it's a bonus episode. We're throwing it in because I said it's time sensitive. We have a lot of things coming up in California with the AB 2223 bill just passing like wildfire through the different branches of legislation. But you're on the front lines, and you are getting information out about this bill. I guess it's being debated, right? We have some people saying, oh no, it's not, where you can abort or kill your baby 28 days after birth. I've actually had family members, close friends, everybody. And I know most of the people I know live in California because that's where I just recently moved from. And they were saying, hey, I've read this bill over and over again, and I just don't see where it says that a baby can be killed 28 days after birth, because that's not specifically in the bill, right?
Right.
So I feel like, one, this is going to help Christians know what we need to do right now, practically, how to understand this bill, because I feel like people who are trying to pass these extreme agendas and know how to word it in such a way where it doesn't sound bad at all. I mean, that's the slyness to me of the enemy. He did it in the garden with Eve.
Yes.
And he's doing it with simple bills like this one and others. So we're going to talk about that. And then I really love that we are going to talk about Christians don't want to get involved in politics, but I say that's hogwash. Like, I am so tired of that. Like, as if we're supposed to check our political opinions and everything else at the door just because we're a Christian, but nobody else has to. No atheists have to. No Muslims have to. It's like only the Christians have to not talk about politics. Tell me where that makes sense, because it doesn't, right? So we're going to get into all that, and that's why I'm excited to have you on. So first of all, I want to ask this. What have you been seeing? Because you're still in California, you're living there, and it doesn't sound like you plan on escaping like I did. So, and kudos to you, Dawn. You, like I said, you're fighting the good fight over there. So what have you been seeing in regards to AB 2223? What is going on? How are you trying to get this momentum going for people to get on board to talk about it?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of people that are leaving California. I'm just going to address the elephant in the room and love them. Lots of dear friends, and they're leaving for lots of reasons. California is a hard place to live. It's expensive. Raising kids here, like you mentioned in my bio, I have kids that are 12 and 14 right now. And I would say there's lots of people, just to dispel a myth, there are lots of people that love Jesus that live here, that are passionate about truth. And like me, we view this as missional. We know that as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. So yeah, I just want to put that out there. So please, if you don't live in California, don't just tune out right now. I'm sharing this about this bill because we need everyone to pray for California, to pray about this bill, because if it passes here, it'll be coming to a state near you. So AB 2223, I've been following a lot of bills. I have alerts on a lot of things. This bill I did not know about till it was making its way into the health committee. And so it had already made its way a little bit for a couple of months. And then I saw an article, it was actually on Frank Turek's podcast. And he was talking about it. And I'm like, this is crazy. What is going on? And so the word infanticide has been attached to this bill. And that's where if you type in AB 2223, the first thing that's going to show up is fact checkers. They're going to say, oh, AB 2223 does not legalize infanticide because it's nowhere in the bill. The word that they use is perinatal. And so that word is not defined. Words are important. Words being left loose, especially when it comes to legal terms, are dangerous. And so this bill is really scary because perinatal in the state of California, actually, if you go to our health code, the California Department of Health Code, Title 22, actually defines perinatal. I'm actually going to read it for you because that's really important. And this would dispel the fact checkers who are saying this is not infanticide. But so if you actually go, you can actually Google this. Anybody who's listening can just Google Title 22 CPSP regulations. And the first line is going to say comprehensive perinatal services. So comprehensive perinatal services mean obstetric, psychosocial, nutrition, and health education services, and related case coordination provided by or under the personal supervision of a physician. And here's the key term, because this is a timeline right now. During pregnancy and 60 days following delivery. So this bill is going to remove legal penalties for a mother and an accomplice during the quote unquote perinatal death of her child.
Yeah.
So when we've defined perinatal, that means in the state of California, that's during pregnancy and 60 days following delivery.
So where are we getting the 28 days after birth?
So perinatal can be defined by some as between 7 to 28 days, but according to our California health regulations, that can actually be up to 60 days.
Oh my goodness. So it's actually
longer
than what I've been saying. Yes, because I've been telling everybody 28 days. I know Maryland has this on their ballot for November.
Yes, they do.
Have you been following that? Yes. So that's what you're saying. Like, even if you don't live in California, it could be coming to a state near you. And this is regardless of whether or not it's California or the state that you live in. We're talking about life in the womb. We're talking about the unborn here and how we view personhood and the value of life, regardless. Like if we can yawn at this, to me, it's like yawning at what's happening in China when they're harvesting organs. Exactly. You know, it's like, should we just be like, oh, okay, well, at least it's not here. That's not the attitude that we're supposed to have about it. And I appreciate you saying it's missional for you. And I believe that too. Like if we're about giving our money to our missions directors or our missions, in our church or something, in our own state, in our own country, for Pete's sake, we need to be mission minded, because look at our culture. It's like, how are we thinking of missions? Missions isn't this faraway land where we're sending people, to just preach the gospel. There's a lot of ways to look at missions, and California is, like you said, it's a hard place to live. It was very difficult during the heart of COVID, when we had kids in school and things like that. But at the same time, just because I move doesn't mean that I ignore. And it doesn't mean that we all yawn because we don't live in California, So like you said, a lot of things start there. A lot of things start in New York. Actually, I think I read a couple weeks ago when I talked about the black hole of immorality, legalized abortion period started in California and New York. And it creeped into the rest of the United States. So there you have that. So I know you said it's hard to know the truth about the bill in California, but you've actually dug through
Mhm.
and have looked up all of this information. Now, is the Pacific Justice Institute one that you read from, or you said that that's a really helpful resource?
Yes, Pacific Justice Institute is great. It has a fact sheet on it. They actually have a response letter. That would be one of the resources I would go to if you're confused on this bill. They've done several Zooms on this bill as well. So they can unpack the legalese. I am not a
Mm-hmm.
legal scholar, so that helps me. You can go to ab2223.org, and that'll direct you to the California Family Organization where you can get a bunch of resources just helping you understand. Read the bill yourself. That's the first thing I ask people to do when they come at me with fact checkers. So you can actually read what the bill is asking for.
Okay.
It is taking away. You can read section 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 basically is saying that it would take away any penalties for investigation during that time period. So if an infant were to be found in a dumpster, it would actually be a criminal offense to investigate that death, um, and punishable up to $25,000. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, I mean, this is,
Completely reverse of justice,
yeah,
like criminalizing murder. Instead, you're criminalizing the one who's investigating the murder, who
yes.
wants to provide justice to the baby. It's absolutely mind-boggling. It's completely Romans 1, a
Mm-hmm.
depravity of the mind, which we know that society gets further and further away from that, but closer to the depraved mind daily. So are you saying too that we have to it's the lingo that's tripping people up, right? With the
Yes.
perinatal.
Yes.
Okay.
Perinatal is one of the key words. And then pregnancy outcome is another word that's used. Um,
Mm,
So, I mean, what is a pregnancy outcome, right? So that could be abortion, that could be a stillborn, that could be a miscarriage, that could also be a live birth. So they're saying that the woman would not be held responsible for a pregnancy outcome. They actually take out the word woman, so it's a pregnant person, which all the
mhm.
language can
Okay,
be also
gosh.
very confusing, so
Mhm.
you have to kind of unpack everything that's being said. Of course, we don't hold people responsible for a miscarriage, you know, a stillborn, someone who dies because of SIDS. Not investigating a death makes no moral sense anymore.
Mm-mm.
So, I mean, an abortion of a child that is fully viable, right now the abortion law is viability is between 27 and 28 weeks. We know, right, that life begins at conception, that once it's a single
Right.
cell, it's a fully functioning, that's a living, that is not the mother's body, that is a human being. But in the state of
Mhm.
California, they're saying viability is 27, 28 weeks. Well, that's getting rid of even that. This is pushing it to
Yes.
abortion post birth. And there we go with
Right.
infanticide. Um,
Well, that's one of the conversations I've actually had with people who are saying, I don't understand, this bill. And I had actually, one of the ladies that was in our apologetics class with Scott Klusendorf,
yes.
she was an abortionist. She used to perform abortion, excuse me. She's an OBGYN, and she came on and she's from California, and she gave in description and detail what
Mhm.
each stage of an abortion would look like at 12 weeks, at the second trimester, and things like that. Well, abortion is legal through, I believe, the second trimester. Don't quote me on that, in California at the moment.
Correct.
So if this is going further, like I'm telling people, just think about it logically. If it's
Mhm.
going beyond what's already legalized, which is the second trimester,
Mhm.
of course it's going to be something that, okay, it's either going to be third trimester or it's going to be after birth. It's like you only have those two options if we're taking abortion further than what it already is in California.
Mhm.
And so we have to think of it that way too. By the time you're in your third trimester, like you're saying, these babies are, gosh, Dawn, I forgot. I've been pregnant 3 times and I forgot what the third trimester, which week is the third trimester? It's the 24 and on, right?
Yes. So
Yes.
we are
So,
pushing into the third trimester already in California. And as you
yes.
may have read in the news, like California has decided, like lots of things it wants to be the sanctuary state of, Our
Mm-hmm.
governor currently has said we will be the abortion sanctuary state. And
Yes.
we
And he
are,
came out with that a few months ago.
yes, when the thought of Roe Wade being overturned. And so that's what got this bill in motion,
Yes.
was that we are going to make sure that you can come from any other state. We will help pay for your abortion. We will
Yep.
fly you here. We will pay for your lodging, which
Yep.
just, many of us faithful Christians, that's what got us on our knees and weeping. That is not what we
Mm-hmm.
hope for this state. So that is
Yeah.
the heart behind this bill. The other really crazy piece, and law enforcement here does not support this bill. Many people in law enforcement, because they would want to investigate, and have due diligence on, the death of a child. This is clearly a
Mm-hmm.
child, and they would actually, the mother or whoever was involved in the death of this child would be able to sue law enforcement. I mean, think about that. They are doing
Mm-hmm.
their job, and they would be sued
Yes.
if this bill were
Yes.
to continue. So it's just
So,
the opposite of justice when you think about what
oh,
justice is.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's completely what, the Bible tells us when we celebrate evil and we condemn the good. That's where we're at with our society. When people are trying to understand this, I've gotten to the point, and it was after Scott's class on pro-life apologetics.
Yes.
I got to the point where I don't care anymore what people
Mm,
think when I
yes.
speak about pro-life and defending the unborn. If you don't want to listen to this podcast because I vehemently say that we need to protect the unborn and speak on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves, then that's fine. That's your choice. But I
Yes.
will continue to speak on it. I'm not going to stop posting about it. I'm not going to stop
Yes.
telling Christians why they need to stand for this. To me, this is one of the you won't find in any other religion or any other worldview
Yes.
the emphasis that God places on the value of human life.
Yes.
And so without a Christian worldview, you just won't get it. And so I'm there, but how do we help people understand? I think that's the main issue here, is not just saying what I think about the pro-life movement, but
Mm.
helping others to understand so they can come to that same conclusion with it. How would you say we need to go about doing that? Because I know the fights can look different in different environments, right?
Mm.
That the Capitol in California, it's going to look a little bit different than it does in a conversation walking with a friend or in church, a church setting. Our church is talking about it enough. I know
Right.
you were just training your employees about it. So
Yeah.
how would you do that?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we met at CIA, and then we
Mm-hmm.
both took the online Christian course with Scott Klusendorf. Just shout out to that class. If you're
Yes.
hearing this, that is the best training you could do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we'll link that. I'm probably sure in this podcast. Sign up for the
Yes.
class.
Yep.
If you're sitting here listening to this and you're going, I could never have that conversation with someone. I am not someone that could teach about that, or I'm seeing all of the vitriol, the hatred, I'm going to lose friends over this. I get it. um,
Yeah.
that was me. I grew up in a pro-life family. I grew up actually in Florida, where it's just a little different climate than here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that life began at conception. I knew that that was God's heart. But when it came to how do I talk about it, I felt really ill-equipped. And
Yep.
and so I knew that I needed to speak up for life, because there is no other great cause that unites us as followers of Jesus than speaking to this issue. There's a lot of things, a lot of hills we could die on, but this is the one that if you claim to be a follower of Jesus, guys, we all have to band together. And, when I heard about this bill, I'm just going to be honest with you, Shanda, I woke up for a week straight at about 3 a.m, and I couldn't
Wow.
sleep. And I just felt like the Lord was telling me, what's your sphere? Who do you interact with? And I knew my sphere was Santa Cruz churches, because God's put me in a position right now where I'm connected to other Santa Cruz churches. So my question to you, if you're listening, is what is your sphere? Maybe you've got little ones at home, because that was my story. And I thought, man, I have no influence. But I was a park mom, and I had little ones, and I would be at the park with like 5 other friends. If that's your sphere, that's who
Mm-hmm.
you speak to. And you may not feel like you're super articulate, but get the basics down.
Hmm.
And, when we took our class, Shanda, the thing that I learned that was the most important was the pro-life syllogism. It's the pro-life
Yes.
argument. And it is this: it is wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human being. Pretty much anybody on the street is going to agree with you with that, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
If they're a mom at the park, if they're, my hairdresser, who I know is actually pro-abortion, she will agree with me on that statement.
Right.
And then you followed up with abortion intentionally kills an innocent human being. And I can share I don't even have to share my faith with that one. I can share just with science, how when you take a sperm
Yep.
and an egg, they create a zygote, a single celled organism. And that is a human being with its own DNA, its own life structure. I can share with SLED, size, level of development, environment, degree of dependency. I can share all about that. We can talk more in depth about that. But then I can prove that argument that therefore abortion is morally wrong.
Hmm.
And if you can
Hmm.
just get that syllogism down, and then you can, in winsomely, in relationship, whatever your sphere is, mine, it was pastors. So I called up every pastor that I knew. It was about 12 pastors in Santa Cruz. And guess what? 10 out of 12 didn't even know about this bill. They were like me.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
didn't know about it. And most of them thanked me. They were like, oh my goodness, thank you. Thanks for letting me know. And tomorrow night, we're holding a prayer meeting because we want to mobilize our churches. When this bill went before the health committee, I was sad to hear that no Bay Area churches were represented, and we're going to fix
Wow.
that. We wanted to
Good for
have
you,
we want to
Dawn.
have a Bay Area presence because there's some few righteous people in the Bay Area, I can tell you, and
Hmm. Hmm.
we are praying. So, you asked how would you do this, and I would say pray and ask God to show you what is your sphere.
Hmm.
If you're a teenager, you're in a high school. I can't get into high schools in California. It's very difficult. But if you're 16, you have a sphere of influence that I don't have.
Yep.
You have friends that I don't have, and you can speak to this issue in a way that is much more well received than mine. You have an Instagram following that I don't have. You can do it winsomely and you can do it boldly. And that would just be what I would share.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
great. I remember Scott even telling us, like, I know every time, every week that ended that we completed
Yes.
in the class, it was like, what's the pro-life argument? And it
Yes.
was always, I think he started off with, I was like, we are going to get this. He's going to make sure we remember this syllogism. And I remember even he was like, something about what do you need to know for this class? Syllogism, syllogism, syllogism.
Yes.
And it's like, and that's it. And I think, like I told you before we even pushed record, I think that's all I got out of the class was the syllogism. I knew I was armed. I was ready. I had what I needed to know because I'm like you. I knew that defending life in the womb was necessary. I believe that from the moment of conception, that is a human life
Yes.
growing in the womb and distinct and whole. And I didn't know how to articulate that, and like you said, the pro-abortionists have never really heard a good argument
Yes.
about why we should be defending life in the womb. And I want to get to all that, but I also want to talk about what's the common misconceptions about this bill
Mm-hmm.
so we understand it from both angles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the biggest misconception would be the word infanticide is not in the bill. So if you send out, I've sent out texts like, hey, please pray. I want to let you know about this bill. And I get some really gracious, wonderful people that will say, hey, I just want to let you know, I think you're a little bit misinformed or going a little bit crazy on this one. It
Now, why
actually
do they
isn't.
think that? Is that because they don't understand it themselves?
They'll look up the bill, and if you look it up
Okay.
on Google, for example,
Hmm.
go do this, type it up. You'll get
Okay, I'll do it right now. I'm gonna do it
immediately
right now, girl.
fact check. It does not legalize infanticide because the word is not in the bill, which is actually really clever. The author, Buffy Wicks from Oakland, not too far from me, purposely kept the word vague. She used that word, the phrase pregnancy related cause, which is an interesting word to use when you talk about a cause of death. And then she also used the perinatal, which for you guys, I've already described in California Health
Right.
Code what that means. But anybody uses perinatal, they're like, oh, perinatal, that's not infanticide. That perinatal phase, that's, I've maybe had a child that was like right after birth.
Right.
Um, and
Well,
then,
you are right. If you Google it, you
Mhm.
get fact checked. If you go to DuckDuckGo, you don't.
Correct.
So just everybody, you might want to use DuckDuckGo.
Yep.
But yeah, okay. Sorry to interrupt you. I was
No, no, it's
just
great.
confirming what you said.
Yeah.
So even if
Um,
they died of SIDS, it wouldn't matter if it was SIDS, abortion. Like you're saying, it doesn't matter if somebody drowned their baby. No one's going to investigate it. So you wouldn't really know anyways, because if you did investigate it, they're going to have to pay a $25,000 fine for the investigation of why this baby died.
correct. Correct.
That is sick. It's just
And then another
sick.
pushback you'll get is, well, why would we want to criminalize someone whose baby died of SIDS? I mean, that's the other argument you'll get. And you go, of course, we would never criminalize someone whose baby died of SIDS. But just because you would still want to investigate, right? I mean, you would never
Hmm.
want, you know, why would you throw that out? And yet it's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater, right? And that rarely happens that somebody's criminalized for that. But do we throw out investigating deaths of babies up to 60 days because of maybe two cases where it's been done wrong? I mean, that's
Right.
it's a crazy argument. And then, are we going to allow abortions that could be back alley abortions now? I mean, essentially, that's what we're going to say we're going to allow right now if we
Hmm.
allow up to 40 weeks. So now that would be my argument against allowing this. Yeah. And then the perinatal death, the phrase perinatal death is used in the bill, and all the definitions of perinatal, they're saying include a child at least 7 days older. To me, that doesn't really defend this bill. To me, that's alarming. And
Hmm.
that's where you go back to that health code. And you're like, yes, that's actually in California health code goes up to 60 days. And that's very disturbing that we would not investigate a death of an actual child. So using vague
Yeah.
language is scary because then it leaves it up to the interpretation um,
Yes.
of those
Yes, it does.
instances. So those are
So
the
what
pushbacks is I get people that fact check. That's my number one pushback I get.
Okay, so and if they're Googling it, they're going to be like, "Oh, here it is right here. It says fact check. That's not correct." And you had said, and I agree with you. I think every time California votes on something, I look at
Yep.
the ratio of yays and nays depending upon what the bill is, and
Yes.
you're always outnumbered on the extreme side of the bill, people that are for something immoral, to be honest with you, and you're
Right.
always like extremely heavy handed on that, where you're like, it doesn't matter what I vote for, it doesn't matter who I call my senator, my legislation, they're representing the majority, and that's the majority are the ones that are either one, not paying attention like you said, or two, they agree with the bill.
Right.
And it leads a lot of people to just be deflated and say California is a
Yes.
lost cause. But
Yes.
you're saying don't think of it that way. But
Yes.
that's the pushback you're getting too, right? Or the defeated people.
Oh, absolutely. I think I texted out about 100 people each time, and,
Hmm.
um, and I'm like, I know, I'm sorry, group texts are annoying, but I have to keep you up to date. Here's a link to call your representative. And, I did get some, and I get it. They're like, hey, I'm just being real with you. It's discouraging. If I look back at the history of the bill, everybody's voting party lines. Let's just be real. And if you look at who
Yeah.
voted, it's true. And we're outnumbered. The conservative vote is outnumbered, and it's like 12-4. So when
Yeah,
it went
it is.
before the assembly this last time, the committee, it was voted 12-4. I mean, that's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So it's coming
Yeah.
this Friday before the whole assembly. And if they continue to vote party lines, then it will be passed. That's
Hmm.
discouraging to think about.
Right.
So when we call the representatives, my representative is going to probably vote party lines. Half of my friends said, oh, it was great. The secretary was friendly. I was received well. And the other half were like, oh, that was rough. you know,
Yeah.
I actually was argued with. Like they told me I was misinformed. I needed to check my facts. This is not what the bill's about, which I don't know what it's like for you in your state calling a representative. But, then I had to do some just coaching, like actually, you need to push back and let them know they are to represent you in your vote. You will be watching how they vote, and you will make sure that their vote you will be following, and you will let everybody know how they voted. So
Yeah.
it's okay. Stand up. They represent you, whether you voted for them or
Right.
not.
Right.
But it is
Right.
very discouraging, and you have to obviously in that world of politics, stand up for yourself, stand up for human life. Like I said, this is the hill to die on. And then
Mm-hmm.
also know that we serve a God who cares about this even more than we do. And he
Yes.
has parted waters that are much deeper than this. So
Amen. Yep.
we're
That's
not
true, Dawn.
responsible
Good for
for the
you.
outcome. We're not responsible for the outcome, but we are
Mm-mm.
responsible to be a voice for those who have no voice.
Yes.
And
I'm
that's
so proud of you though, because you, like you said, you're telling them, no, go back and push back on this and let them know that they represent you. You're telling people how to do it. And I think a lot of times, I remember praying and telling the Lord, like, God, I want to do something about this, whether it be abortion or something else. I want to do something, but I don't know what. I don't know how to do it. And you don't know how to move, but you want to take that step, but you're just not sure which direction to take. So I think that it's so wise of you to say, here's the number to call. Here's what you can say. Don't stop making your voice heard, because the voices of culture are so loud. They're so loud, and they're not just saying, hey, I want to be heard. They're saying, you will hear me.
Mhm.
And I feel like on our side of this, we're so afraid to speak because we're going to get the pushback, or we're going to, we're not going to be heard maybe. Oh, what's my voice out here in California? Nobody's going to hear me. But that is not an excuse, and it won't be a good enough excuse when we stand before the Lord, because you're right. We have a God who cares about this more than we care. And if it's just one phone call, I mean,
Yes.
is that really hurting
Yeah.
us? Is that really putting a
Right.
dent in our day and our schedule? One phone call, an email. I remember when I was in California, I would send emails and emails and emails to the
Yes.
senator about, I can't even remember what they were about anymore. Like
Mhm.
specifically, it was obviously different bills and things like that. But I would just email and be like, wouldn't get a response. But hey, I'm
Right.
still here. I'm going to be the squeaky wheel,
Right.
and we have to do that. We have to let our voices be heard, because it's a phone call, it's an email, and it's not a life-threatening situation for us, but obviously on the other end of this, it is for the unborn. And you had listed a couple of other things regarding pushback from Christian people, and that's what I want to talk about too, is the pushback of, well, hey, don't aborted babies go to heaven anyway? I mean, that is terrible.
Mhm. Mhm.
Terrible. What
Mhm.
is that? It's okay, Dawn. They're all going to be in heaven anyway, so just
Mhm. Mhm.
okay. Does that mean it's okay to pull them limb by limb in the womb? Is
Mhm.
that is okay to crush their skulls and let their
Mhm.
brain matter ooze out, because they're going to be in heaven anyway?
Mhm.
I can't believe that people are actually saying that to you.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get overwhelmed here. Like I said, and this is California, you are a minority. A, if you're a Christian, and then if you hold a pro-life view, I think it's a bit of a cop out. So I think there's always a question behind a statement like that. So I always want to poke in, like, okay, so help me understand where you're coming from. And I think sometimes that comes from someone who spoke up and just got their head ripped off, you know?
Mm. Mhm.
And that's where I just say, yes, we believe that, innocent life will be in the arms of Jesus, but don't you think that life, A, began at conception, and it's not up to us to, we speak up for that life and give that life an opportunity to have a life here on earth.
Mhm.
That's not up for
Yeah.
us. Like, abortion is not, and I just think walking them through that, in Santa Cruz County, there's probably 4% say they're followers of Jesus. So, when I say this
Mm.
is a mission field, I truly mean it.
Right.
So it can be intimidating or it can be really exciting, however you choose to look at it. So, and I don't know where you're listening from right now, but if you could flip how you view speaking up for hard things, look at it as an opportunity. And I think a lot of those justifications, they just don't hold water. I think at the end of the
Mhm.
day, I think there's fear. behind it, which I understand, but at the end of the day, I don't.
Right.
I have lost friends over this issue, and I'm okay with that as long as I've done it truthfully, honestly, and kindly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but if my words can save one human life, then it's worth it,
Mm-hmm.
because this
It
is
is.
life. This is life at
Mm-hmm.
stake.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
have 2,200 innocent human lives every day that are aborted in the United States. And, you and I have lived through 9/11, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
vivid
Mm-hmm.
memory, but that's 9/11 every single day.
Yeah. Good point.
When you put it in frames like
Wow.
that, for me, I guess I don't see a reason to sit on the sidelines.
No, I don't either. I don't either. And I love what you said too. Some people get to where they're like, well, we don't want to offend those who have had abortions and we don't
Right.
want to cause more shame or guilt to them. I understand completely, but that's
Yes.
not a reason to not speak up, because like you said, in that situation, this is where the gospel of Jesus has such power. Like we are
Amen.
literally robbing ourselves of the opportunity to not only speak life on behalf of the unborn, but speak life into the woman who may have had an abortion. And so, in a sense, you have the opportunity to save two lives, possibly,
Yes.
right? One for an eternal life, and then one to give the option to live their life here on earth, or the opportunity to do that. And I just thought that was such a great point, too.
Mm.
It's so true.
Yeah. We cover this. We do something at our church, which I love. My lead pastor is Dan Kimball. He's written quite a few books. I highly admire him. And, we've walked through theology. We've walked through systematic theology last year with all of our staff. This year, we've gone through more cultural topics. And last year, we addressed abortion as well with our staff really deeply. And at the end, I had one of our staff members say, "Hey, can I take a walk around the neighborhood with you?" And she came up to me and she said, "Hey, this was really hard for me. I, I need to talk with you because I actually helped a friend. This was back probably 10 years previously. I actually helped a friend go to Planned Parenthood, and I was there when she had an abortion. And until this discussion, I never realized the weight of what I did." And she's in tears
Mm,
and she's just sobbing. So she didn't have an abortion, but she assisted a friend. She goes, "I took her there and then I sat with her through it. And then I brought her soup afterwards." And, I don't know about you, but many of you listening, this might be your story, or maybe you're the one that had the abortion. And I was able to walk with her and talk with her. She's a follower of Jesus. And I said, "Don't you understand? What you're feeling is, the conviction of the Holy Spirit." I said, "But there's forgiveness for that. You
mm-hmm.
realize the gravity of what was taken, that human life, but that's the gospel. That's the grace. Like there's forgiveness." And
Mm-hmm.
we prayed, and she looked at me and she goes, "I am so glad you had the courage to talk about this today, because I have been carrying this around for a decade.
Wow.
And it's been limiting me from feeling like I could do ministry, that I could work with women." And it was like in the briefest seconds, it was gone. And now this gal is vibrant. She speaks to women. Like, so if you're sitting here listening and you're going, "Yeah, I couldn't speak up about abortion because this is something that's dark and hidden in the closet of my life." Like, there's no sin that God cannot forgive, and there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing he cannot heal. That is what God does, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
abortion or anything else. And so I know that right now, I mean, many people have reached out to me in the last months and said, "Pray for me, pray for this person in my life. What's going on with Roe v. Wade is stirring up a lot of things." And I do think as people who are in ministry, like we need to be aware of that and just know that God could be doing a deep work right now. And we need not hold back talking about it for fear of that. We actually need to
Yes.
lean into the healing and the restoration that God can and will do. Um,
Yep.
so I just encourage If you're sitting on the sidelines because of that, maybe you've put yourself on the bench saying, I can't do this. I had an abortion. I can't speak to this. Your voice is so important right now. We need you. We need everybody. This is
Yeah.
all in right
Yep.
now. Yeah.
In fact, I'll extend the invitation. Email me and
Yeah.
let's talk about it. One, if
Yeah.
you need someone to help counsel you through it, we'll get you that
Yes.
help that you need to, to not live with this guilt and shame. And secondly, if you want to talk about sharing your story and why you now have realized that you want to defend pro-life,
Mm.
in the pro-life movement, talk about it, then email me about that as well. And we'll make sure your voice is heard, because I
Mm.
really believe that these conversations are important, especially Dawn, because I don't know about your church sounds like you're doing some great work there, especially because you're equipping your employees. I mean, to do theology with them last year and you training them on the pro-life movement and things like that
Mhm.
is great. But I didn't come from that. I didn't come
Mhm.
from a lot of this kind of cultural topics. We really didn't get into that too much growing up. I wish we would
Mhm.
have, but everything I've learned is through more of the OCC, CIA, all of that,
Yes.
apologetics. This just where I've learned to have these conversations and be equipped to.
Mhm.
So I think churches need to be talking about this. I think that's one of the reasons why women, like the one who walked with you, stays
Yes.
quiet about it and holds on to it for 10 years, because nobody in the church is saying, on the
Yes.
flip side of this pro-life movement, let's also talk about those who have had abortions. Because when culture normalizes things,
Yes.
you're going to end up with a lot of people in your church who are struggling with those things because they were partakers of it.
Yes.
And we the church just needs to talk about it in every aspect,
Mhm.
and let people know, even though we're defending life in the womb, we still, God still forgives, like you said, and we need to
Yes.
have those conversations too,
Mhm.
you
Yes.
know.
Yes. Yes.
So you said this is the one that's a kicker for me. Lately, I've been hearing more about it, and obviously politics has been really, really heated, and it seems like, I don't know if I'm older now, so I care more about politics, or if it's
Mhm.
just politics are on steroids now that I'm older, and I'm like, you can't avoid anything with politics. But you said one of their arguments is, well, I don't want to be political.
Oh yeah, for sure. And maybe
Yeah,
that's just more here in California. I think that's like the cardinal sin, right? Is to be political.
yeah.
um, and my response quickly to that is this is not political. This is a human life issue.
Hmm.
And it's a bummer that it's become a partisan thing. But if that's going to keep you on the sidelines, I'm sorry.
Right.
Bluntly, there is a political party that tends to vote more life than the other.
Yeah.
So
The Republican Party. Just
yeah,
say it, Dawn. It's
just
the Republican Party. I mean, that's the thing, is that just because we say those things, you can look it up. You can
yeah,
fact check that. It's not a biased conclusion.
right. So look at your party's stance on abortion. It does matter. We're seeing the outcome of that right now. Just laws that have been made in California. My uncle runs an adoption agency, which is amazing. He tries to place new babies in homes. And due to laws that have happened in this state, especially most recently nationwide, he's like, I'm probably going to have to shut down. It's really hard to find newborns just due to the strong abortion laws that are continuing in this state.
Oh my gosh. I don't understand why people would look at abortion as a political thing, only because, like you said, it's become bipartisan. So now all these parties are talking about it, and they're using smooth words like, women's reproductive rights, and
Right.
other things that I can't think of at the moment off the top of my head. But it's like, it's the same smooth words as you find in the bill with, it's not going to say infanticide, because, then we'd all be like, oh, no, 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 we don't want that. But when did we say, oh yeah, you know what? Christians, abortion is a political issue. We just need to stay out of it. It's a cop out. It's a
Right.
complete cop out. And we're
Right.
getting to the point where this is a politics. I think Ali Stuckey says it all the time. Policies matter because people matter.
Right.
And that's why politics matter. Politics all it has to do is with it has to do with policies, and that's what we look at. I did a recording right before like during the 2020 vote, before that
Mm-hmm.
November, how should Christians vote? And I said, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I
Right.
will tell you that you should be looking at those policies
Yes.
and what they're saying about things like abortion, things
Mm-hmm.
about, religious freedoms and things like that. And
Yes.
then you have to vote that way. I remember somebody posting, a Christian posting something about abortion is not the hill that we're going to die on in regards to that election year. And I'm like, really? That's
Right.
not the hill you're going to die on. Then what are you? What a hill, if not abortion? Because, like I said, it's to me, it's one of the most fundamental, foundational things in life, because it is life. You're talking
Right.
about life. You're talking about human value. And so it's so difficult for me to wrap my head around. And that's one of the things that fires me up when I hear Christians say we shouldn't talk about it. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not talking about it because politics offends people, then you're not in the fight, because this is where we are in our culture right now. This is where we are when that is another way for the enemy to come and deceive and say, don't say anything
Right.
because you don't want to cause trouble. You won't be liked. Jesus said that people will not like us on behalf of him, right? They won't like us because they hated him. The world will hate us too. And sometimes we think it's only if we speak specifically of Jesus's name.
Right.
Well, this isn't specifically Jesus. I mean, this is abortion. What does this have to do with God? Go back to Genesis 1.
Right.
Go back to Genesis 1 and you tell me where it doesn't, where we are created in the image of God. Every human being is
Mm-hmm.
created in the image of God. And there is no other religion that makes that claim. There's
No.
no other religion that talks about image bearers with a God who created heaven and earth. And so to say that we have no argument in this because we're Christians, you don't know what
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. That is a cop out answer. And to sit on our hands, to me, the Bible tells us a lot of things about words. Jesus said, for every idle word that you speak, you will give an account, right?
Yes.
So we have to be careful of the words we do speak that mean nothing, and the words that we don't speak that could hold so much value, but we're too afraid to say them.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, that's the one that bothers me, because that's the one I've been hearing the most. And you said the biggest one, and I understand this again, is they're afraid of the pushback or the vitriol, and people are gnashing their teeth at this.
Yes. Well, and where we are, I mean, protests are everywhere. I mean, it's Friday driving down Highway 1, which is the freeway I drive on to get home in Santa Cruz. It's like a clash of worldviews. Every overpass will typically have posters about everything. It's actually quite
Mhm.
entertaining because usually it's a lot of traffic on a Friday. But we've had a lot of protests against Roe v. Wade being overturned have been happening in California. So there's a lot of fear. We've been targeted as a church, so we've been on high alert every Sunday. A lot of Catholic churches. There's a Catholic church just right across the freeway from us. So there is this like response of, okay, do we speak out now because then we'll get targeted? We have a plan for Sunday. Okay, if this happens, what do we do? What would our security team do? I mean, this is just life in California. um,
Yeah.
and in a way, it's like we have no idea what it's like to be persecuted for our faith in America at this point,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
if we're gonna have to endure some protests for speaking up for life, so be it. We live in a country where people have freedom of speech. They can do that. That's actually a beautiful thing. We also have
It
freedom to
is.
worship, right? And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
it's a bummer that you see protests that get really out of hand. I also cringe when I see the pro-life protesters responding really poorly. Um,
Yes, me too.
so I mean, I think there's a lot that needs to be done well. If you go out and protest for the pro-life, please make us look good. Um, and
Mhm.
can I just, one thing that just, and I don't know, most mainstream news has not shared this, but I was proud of California of one thing. And it came on my Epic Times News. It said Pelosi barred by Catholic Church from receiving communion over abortion
Yes.
advocacy.
Yep.
And I don't know if you have read that letter, here in San Francisco, it was the San Francisco Archbishop Salvatore Joseph Cordileone, and he wrote what I thought must have been the most courageous letter of our time. Here he is in San Francisco. He's got to write this to the Speaker of the House. And I just thought, man, what nerve this would have taken to have to do the right thing, have to put this in print. These are his words. This is his quote. He said, "There can be no more extreme example of cultural depravity than when direct attacks on human life are enshrined in a nation's law, celebrated by society, and even paid for by the government." He said, "This is why Pope Francis, as much as any pope in living memory, has repeatedly and vividly affirmed the Church's clear and constant teaching that abortion is a grave moral evil. As the Archbishop of San Francisco, I am bound to be concerned for all the Christian faithful entrusted to my care." And then he went on and he said, "I have struggled with this issue in my own conscience for many years now, especially with regard to the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives and member of our Archdiocese, Nancy Pelosi. I have received letters from very many of you over the years expressing distress over the scandal being caused by such Catholics in public life who promote such grievous evil practices as abortion. I have responded that conversion is always better than exclusion, and before any such action can be taken, it must be preceded by sincere and diligent efforts at dialogue and persuasion." And then he goes on to say that that's not happened. And so he goes on to say that numerous attempts have been made to speak. And so then he says that he takes no pleasure in the decision, saying that her advocacy for the poor and the vulnerable elicits his admiration. And that he says, "May God grant us the grace to be true advocates for the dignity of human life in every stage and condition of life, and to accompany, support, and love women who otherwise would be found alone and afraid at the most vulnerable times of their life." And then he goes on to say that she's allowed to attend, but he cannot have communion. And I thought, man, what a bold statement. And
Absolutely.
knowing that his church, the Catholic Church, is being targeted with protests and like the graffitis being sprayed on their buildings. He is in San Francisco, one of the darkest places right now in California. That took incredible courage and grit. And I've been praying for him. And I think Christians all over the nation need to encourage him and just stand like that. That is what just truth and boldness look like in our cultural moment. Standing for truth
Exactly.
with kindness and clarity.
Yes.
So that encouraged me. I mean, coming out of San Francisco, man, I just there's some good news out of California. This is what it looks like.
Absolutely. And that took, like you said, that took some guts, him knowing that he's going to get, it's not even pushback in words anymore. It's people showing up. I did see that some churches were having people coming in with just, I'll say costumes for a lack of better words.
Yep.
That looks like they had abortions or mocking it. And it's just like, that's where we are. This is where we are. But at the same time, like you said, we still have freedom of speech. We need to be strong and courageous, knowing that we serve the living God. This is not our words. This is not, we are standing for God's truth. We are standing on what God has already ordained and what God has determined to be valuable human life. And so that's what we're doing. We're only upholding. The church cannot be stopped. The church will not be stopped. If you've ever read or studied early church history, we're actually doing that in church right now at the moment. You will see the persecution the church went through. It only made them stronger. And here we are 2,000 years later with different but very similar types of issues. And the church is always going to be blamed for taking the moral high ground. It's always going to be with words and with accusations and things like that that will make us question whether or not we should speak up. But I can tell you right now, we will not regret it. You will not regret standing for truth and being bold, because I believe that when hearing the courage and the passion of this Pope or Bishop, what did you say his title was, Dawn?
It's the Archbishop. Yep.
Okay, the Archbishop. Hearing him, you're like, okay, he put it out. I'm sure Nancy Pelosi's heard about it. So he's the one nobody knows about about Shanda. So,
Mhm.
it's like I don't have a church building where I'm going to have people come and knocking on it. Now I do go to a church, but you know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
like if he can do it, that makes me more courageous. And
Yes.
that's what courage will do. It's going to light the fire of other people and
Yes.
to know that the gates of hell will not prevail against
Yes.
God's church. So be a part of that. Be a part of
Yes.
something great. And I also want to say, I know we've mentioned Scott's class a few times, and I really want people to realize and to think about how, okay, I want to know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I want to be able to take this course. The self-paced course is at onlinechristiancourses.school. You can go register for that at any time. You can take it as quickly as you want to take it and go through it. Scott has his debate on there, where you
Mhm.
can see him in action and see how he presents the evidence and defense of the pro-life movement. He will tell you how to you will not walk away from that class without memorizing the syllogism. It is just going to
Yes.
happen and you will love it. It's easy. It's exactly what Dawn said. It is wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human being. Abortion intentionally kills an innocent human being. Therefore, abortion is wrong. The end. And if anybody gives you any reason why it might be okay to abort a child, that syllogism answers every single one of them.
Yes.
And like I said, you can go online. I have a discount code. You can get 10% off if you use
Mm.
Shanda10, and that gives you even what the class is already listed for, which to me is not that expensive to invest in this. I think it might be around $80 or something. You get
Mm.
10% off of that. And then Dawn, you also mentioned, why don't you mention Scott's book as well if they want to read that?
Yes. The Case for Life by Scott Klusendorf. Every Christian should own this book. It's
Yes.
concise. It's not hard to get through. It's very readable. I think I like dipped it in highlighter. It highlighted so much, and then
Mm-hmm.
I had to go back and underline, So
Yes.
like it's just everybody should own it. It's wonderful. It's yes.
Yes.
Buy this book
And
today.
he even gives you like scenarios,
Mhm.
people who might have a discussion about why, well, I don't, it's not for me, but why can't other people have an abortion? He will also talk to you, or I say talk to you because it feels like Scott's talking to you when you read the book, but he will give you those different ways to think about this and how to approach those kinds of conversations. There is no reason with the great apologists that we have at our disposal, with the resources that they have written, with their expertise. We can't leave this up to just Scott Klusendorf, though. I will never think of myself as articulate or as intellectual as some of these apologists that I have been taught by. But doggone it, I'm not going to sit by and not use what they have trained me, even if I stumble over my words.
Yes.
And Dawn, I just want to say, I know that those who are listening can probably already know why I love you,
Mhm.
but I'm going to get so emotional. Woo. I
Mhm.
just want you to know, Dawn, you are doing the work, girl. You are on the sidelines. And, it convicts me because I sit behind a microphone and I know that maybe it's important in its own little way, but your work is more important because you feel the heat when, as you and I have been texting over the last couple of weeks,
Mhm.
because I even texted you a couple of weeks ago asking, hey, Dawn, I know you probably know more about this bill. Explain it to me, because I had been reading up on it and talking about it. But when you said I sent out this many texts and I got this kind of a response, and I'm like, that's hard. That's
Mhm.
hard to do. But I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to keep going and to keep it up and to continue to encourage those around you. I'm proud of you for staying in California. I left it.
Mhm.
I left it because it is hard. It's hard to live there. And I wanted to take my kids out of that place. But you know what? We still live in this world. We are in it, but we are not of it.
Mhm.
And I still care about California. I will pray for California, and I will not refuse to speak up about the
Mhm.
pro-life movement, because those lives are dependent upon those who have a voice, and we do. And as long as we can be heard, we should be speaking up. So I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you, and I know that God is going to continue to use you because you're bold and you're strong and you're not backing down. And I just love you for what you do.
Oh, Shana, Danja, that means a lot. Yeah, can I just say, if you're listening to this and, there's definitely been moments of discouragement, and Shanda, you've been my pillar that I go to and I can let down and say, man, this is really hard. I need prayer. Everyone, this is all oars in, guys. If Roe v. Wade gets overturned,
Yes.
which is what we're praying, every one of us has to be a pro-life apologist.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, no matter what phase of life you're in, you can do this work. And that's something that I had to come to grips with, because I felt like I could not speak to this. I'm not a Shanda. I get intimidated on a podcast. I'm definitely not a Scott Klusendorf. And there are so many amazing tools. Like, I take that online course. It'll literally be the best thing that you do. If you're a parent, use this teachable moment. This is all over the media. You don't even have to look for a way to bring it up, because your kids are already seeing it. Talk about it. Ask them what they're seeing. Ask them what they're hearing. If you don't talk about the pro-life movement, somebody else is going to teach your kids about it. And it won't be
Yeah.
the pro-life position. I can
No.
guarantee you that. So use this right now to train your kids. That's what we're responsible for as parents. And then if your kids start eye rolling, you're over the target, because you have taught them probably enough. So just a little tip, if you have teens, talk about it in your coming and your going. When you see signs, ask your kids what they think about it. But you can do this work. We all can do this work. And Shanda, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on with you.
I appreciate it. We did this quick, and I appreciate you being here. Rarely do I cry on my podcast, Dawn, so I should give you an award for that. But if people have questions, can they email you too, if it's specifically about this bill or what they can do to get involved, or maybe, just, I don't know how to maybe start something in their area? Can you give us your contact info?
Sure. Yeah, they can definitely email me. It's pretty simple. It's just Dawn, DAWN, the female version of the name, at vintagechurch.org. And then, like I said, to just get a really great resources on what this bill is, to unpack what it is, just type in AB2223.org. That's going to redirect you to California Family Council. You're going to get all of the info as to what is AB 2223. You're going to see where's the bill now. It'll keep you up to date on the progress of where it is. It's going to tell you how you can lobby against it if you're here in California, how you can push back on it. Literally, you'll push the button on call your assembly member. You'll type in your zip code. It's going to tell you who your assembly member is. It's going to give you talking points. It'll even send an email for you to your assembly member. It really couldn't be easier. So, I mean, it just takes all that discomfort away. But please, if you live in California, please do this today. It is going before the assembly members on May 27th. So time is urgent. If it passes the assembly, it will go to the Senate. We are going to try to organize to be a presence there when that happens. So keep tracking. Like I said, if you want to get organized with me, I'm working to do that. We're also coordinating with Calvary Chino Hills. We're working with them this week to try to organize more. We'd love to make voices known against this bill. So email me
Yes.
if you'd like to be part of that. But please contact your assembly member. That's the first step you can do. And if you don't live in California, when I had a global missions heart, and my heart was as a kid, and we would pray for the country of China. We put a map of China up, and we would pray for specific regions of China. If you don't live in California, would you consider California to be your focus of prayer right now?
Mm-hmm.
Would you print out a map of California, and would you cover our cities with prayer? California has hit bottom. And as a dear Pastor Jack Hibbs would say, the only way you can go when you've hit bottom is you can go up.
Mm-hmm.
Would you pray for revival in California? Would you pray against these evil laws? Would you pray for Christians to rise up with boldness? Would you pray against this bill? And would you literally just, like, city by city, Santa Cruz, San Francisco, Oakland, Chino Hills, Santa Barbara, just all of the, just literally as a family, would you cover our state in prayer? When you think about it, we are the largest state. We have the most votes. We're like the fifth wealthiest nation in the world. There's a reason we're being targeted, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, when I talk about California, I get a lot of, well, God's left California. God never leaves his people.
Mm-mm.
There's still a
Mm-mm.
presence here. Please pray
Mm-hmm.
with a passion for California. There are a lot of Christians here that have not left it, and even people that have left it still pray, like Shanda.
Mm-hmm.
Please
Mm-hmm.
get on your knees and pray for this state. It's not lost.
Yes. Mm-mm.
So we
Nope.
need you to commit to pray like you would a foreign country. So that's my challenge.
Yes. We will take that challenge. We are going to take that challenge. And I appreciate everything that you've said, Dawn. You amaze me. You are articulate. You know what you're talking about. And for you to dig into these and investigate this bill yourself and to find these answers, that's what we all should be doing. And I know that God is going to use you. He is using you. By the way, he's not going to. He is. So buckle up. And I think that you're doing good work. I will link all the Dawn's email and the bill, the SB2223.org into the show notes. And then I'll also put in the online Christian school specifically for the pro-life apologetics course with Scott Klusendorf. I will also tag him on social media so you guys can start following Scott and
Awesome.
just listen to him and take any tips that he might have as well. But invest into this. Invest in it by paying under $100 for your own online course. Spend a few minutes of your day each day watching his videos, read his book, and equip yourself to have the confidence to walk into these conversations. We don't have all the answers. We're not always going to be able to know what to say, but we can know a lot more than what we do right now if we're willing to just go the extra mile and make an investment into eternity. And that's the way I look at it. So thanks for joining us on this bonus episode. Share it with other people. Share it with those who don't live in California, because this is not just a California thing. Like we've already said, this is a countrywide issue right now that we are facing with possible overturn of Roe v. Wade, but understanding this bill is going to be so important. It's coming on the ballot in Maryland. Pray about that one as well, because they'll be voting on it in November, a similar bill. And, we need your voice. So if you have any questions for me, you can email me at hello@shandafulbright.com, and I'll catch you on the next one.